Alright everyone, we are finally here and thank you for tuning in. This is of course another week's edition of the Sunday Cup, or the Semi-Pro Cup Series, the Sunday edition. Of course all these teams will be playing for $100. There's over 60 teams entered this week and it's going to be exciting. And I am super hyped to be here because I didn't get to cast on Thursday. But who did was my friend, my man, Nizcast, and he is of course joining me today as well. But shout out to him for casting all of Thursday. It was enjoyable to watch when my internet allowed me. But I am very excited for this game, and half the reason that we're casting this game is because Mental is a friend of mine. I used to play with him competitively. He's was a carry player at the time, but I'm excited about this game because this is a new team, I guess, for him, and there are a few NA players against a team I haven't really heard of. But I know they made it to the third round last Sunday, so should be interesting. How you doing, Niz?
I'm doing good. I had some fun casting Thursday by myself, but it was a little tiring. So it's good to have a co-caster this time around. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you to anyone who actually hopped on over to my stream and actually listened to me do the solo cast. But yeah,
he was better at loading screens, or waiting screens, guys. I need to steal Niz's waiting screens.
I spent some time on them a long time ago. I'm glad they got some use.
Well, this game, honestly, it's draft is starting really slow already. We see a Dyer using up quite a bit of, waiting or reserve time. I don't know why I said waiting time, but yeah, their reserve time already dipping into about 50 seconds. And again, we only see really 8 different heroes banned out in the first few, and Razor, pretty common ban out. But yeah, we only really see 8 in the first few bans nowadays. Not really too much deviation, except in the case of, for our Hot Hands fans out there, when you're playing against Monib, some teams will ban his Meepo. Because when you know a team can play Meepo really well or Tinker really well, you want to ban that out in the first stage, if you're not equipped to deal with it.
I don't know, one of the games I was casting on Thursday, there was I think one team opened with Bristleback OD banned. And I was like, what is going on?
They're next leveling you.
They somewhat meted the draft and ended up with like a really weird draft. They lost, but it was interesting. It was interesting. They created like this weird situation in the draft. But it kind of worked out for them, but I guess in the end it didn't. But we finally have all 4.
And nothing atypical at all.
Nope.
Definitely the same lot as usual. Although one hero I'm surprised is still getting a lot of banning time, or banning, is Lycan. Because in the high-level competitive scene, when you talk about, I guess, the top 32 teams in the world, Lycan, except for a select few, is really not that common. He is very niche pick. He was more popular, like you said, at the recent Moscow tournament. But a lot of teams have strategies to deal with him, because he is a very high mobility based hero, and there are a lot of ways to exploit that, and split pushing these days is a little more figured out, especially when you get like death ball strategies. But I guess maybe it's still the fear of, oh, well, there's a Tinker. This game got interesting.
Well,
or boring.
Typically you can shut down a Lycan pretty easily, especially at the pro level, but it's a hero that capitalizes on mistakes very, very well. Probably better than a lot of heroes, if not all the heroes in the game. So, especially at this level where, mistakes do happen, and obviously mistakes do happen at the pro level, but they're a lot more prevalent at this level, Lycan becomes a stronger pick. And, obviously we've seen a lot of Tinker played in pro games, but in this level, in kind of the more amateur level, we see him played even more. And then you take the next step down to pubs, and he's played almost every game. So it's just the same kind of mentality where,
well, him and Pudge.
Well, yeah, a hero that can capitalize on mistakes really well, or a hero that requires a lot of coordination to really shut down, which Lycan kind of is both of those. And obviously Tinker's the one that's very difficult to lock down. They really thrive at the lower levels. Not that Tinker isn't a top tier pick in pros, but
no, he definitely
that's
is.
why
but he
Yeah, he's
is
seen a lot more.
more figured out, and that's just by the nature of him seeing more limelight, right? Like when strategies and heroes are brought out to the forefront, obviously the teams that are now playing against those heroes need to figure out ways to deal with them besides just banning, right? You can't always rely on banning to win you the game. You're going to have to learn how to play against the strategies. But anyways, like I was going to say, there are a lot of ways to deal with a Tinker. They do pick up the Jakiro on top of that, which is very interesting. Ice Path can synergize decently well with Tinker and his March because of the AoE nature of both. But what I was going to say is there's a lot of heroes these days that are really good at dealing with a Tinker. Heroes like Venomancer, Beastmaster, not that prevalent, but used to be very prevalent, very strong, and actually very commonly picked in lands because of the vision he gives you. And when you're in that like high what do you call it, prize money stress of a game, having vision is so important because knowing is 90% of the battle in any strategy game. So there are a lot of heroes to deal with the Tinker. We'll have to see what route Venezuelan gaming goes with, because they have Push and like Viper to kind of tank the March, and then also cancel his Blink with Corrosive Skin. But they don't have quite enough yet to really completely deal with the Tinker. They do have the pieces though, and Silencer, Pugna will be the final bans. I like the Pugna ban. It can actually really screw up a Tinker and a Jakiro who just wants to sit there and spam in the background, but neither of those heroes really can jump in and take care of the ward.
Yeah, I agree with all of that except for the fact that I believe knowing is just half the battle. I don't think it's a full 90%. But shout out to G.I. Joe. But,
Idioms. I love them.
yeah, it's actually weird that they banned out both Silencer and Doom. I don't really see this Dire lineup picking up Doom.
Yeah, and even Silencer is a little greedy. I mean, like, Tinker is one of those...
Tinker's a very greedy pick as it is.
Right.
But you can kind of get away with it as long as you can somehow secure his early game.
And that's a strong pick, and that's something that probably was worth mentioning that we kind of... I let by because I took up that airtime. But, yeah, Tidehunter did make it through, and one great hero is Tidehunter to deal with Tinker. However, they need to know where Tinker is. You can't just blink in and ravage, because Tinker gets his blink by like 15 minutes, right? And then Shiver! You don't want that to happen, so we'll see what they do.
But what Tidehunter is it's a hero that can be part of that death ball, or it can move around and gank. So it can create space for your team in two different ways. Yeah, Tide can't solo gank, but he's one of those heroes that can just turn the fight completely around just by jumping in and throwing out a big ravage. And if you do that, even if you're just picking off 2 heroes, maybe even 3 heroes, that's generally going to be a tower on the back of it, if not 2, as long as you are being aggressive with your play. You always want to be, especially in this kind of game, you always want to be fighting on their side of the river when you're making a team fight, so that if it goes your way, you can take a tower, and if it doesn't go your way, well, the other team still has to push to get to your tower. So it kind of buys you some time to recuperate, or sometimes it's just too far and they can't get anything on the back of it. They can just farm a little bit. So you always want to kind of be on the other side of the river, and I know that's very hard to do against a Tinker, because that's what Tinker's really good at, pushing lanes out and kind of stalemating a game or drawing a game out. But if you manage to push up a lane far enough and can then get an engage on 2 or 3 heroes with the Tidehunter Ravage, then you're going to be in a really good position to take some towers on the back of it. And that's what you need to do. You need to start snowballing off the towers early on, so Tinker has, not that he has less room to work, but the room that he has to work is a lot less safe. That's a weird pick. Spectre.
I do... So I'm not trying to defend it or
it's good against Tinker, though.
It is really good. Yeah, that's what I was wanting to say. I mean, like, I love Spectre. I think he's an absolutely amazing hero, but regardless of your opinion on Spectre as a hero, and not necessarily you, Niz, or just anyone out there, he does really mess with the Tinker at any portion of the game once he gets Radiance. The problem is Spectre and Radiance rushes with any hero are always risky. And if you fail, right, they're gonna lose the game. If your Spectre is underfarmed, you need the Radiance, is basically what I'm trying to get at too, is because it cancels the blink, right, it follows him around. It's so useful His ultimate, he can always just blink away without it, and Shadow Demon will be the response.
Shadow Demon's really good against Spectre, but what I like with the Spectre
And
pick
Radiance, or Radiance builders, yeah.
is you can Spectre ult to see where Tinker is if he's in the tree, so you can gank him. You can use the Spectre to... Spectre doesn't even have to jump in. He just has to use his ult, and it gives vision for his teammates to set up a kill on Tinker. But also, typically, Tidehunter's a hero who's going to jump in and start a fight, start an engagement. Yes, you can wait, but especially in this game, he's probably going to be the one to jump in and start the engagement. Enigma is a hero that you typically never want to do that with. You always want to wait for the engage to happen, and then you kind of counter-engage as heroes get clumped or whatever. But once Tidehunter jumps in a Ravage, the Spectre ults on the back of it, and Enigma won't then be able to blink in and do anything with a black hole. So they'll really be able to limit any kind of impact the black hole can really have on a team fight.
It's interesting they banned the Brewmaster here based off of what they're going. I really think Brewmaster, because they have the first pick out of this. This is maybe a little overcritical out of me, but they could have grabbed that Brewmaster. They do ban it out instead. Slark is the final ban as far as this game goes, and we'll get into the last two picks. But I definitely agree with you 100%, Niz. But one thing I wanted to say is something about the Venezuela gaming, to go back to idioms that we were talking about before, the old Brood War idiom was always find ways to hurt your opponent. And this is how they have to play against the Tinker. And that's where if Spectre gets basic levels of farm to do what she needs to do and give her team the opportunities to find Tinker and kill Tinker, then they do stand a very good chance in winning. And the Rubik Shadow Shaman is an incredibly stable support core. Because at level 2, they're fully capable to respond to any gank, to start ganks, but also to pull, and they're Radiant side. And if they can exploit the fact that you can triple pull on the Radiant side, sorry, I had IRC kicking me out for some reason. But anyways, Rubik and Shadow Shaman, either one of them greatly values from the bonus experience from triple pulling and can get a level 6 or 7 really quickly.
Now, I understand why they banned the Brewmaster, because they didn't want it, and they wanted Tide to become a core and putting him in the off lane, because eventually they do want to work towards a Refresher. Refresher is going to be a really big item in this game on the Tidehunter. Obviously, that's way down the road, but just how the team fights are most likely going to play out, Refresher is going to be a huge item in this game. I don't really like the Rubik pick. I actually would have preferred them pick up the Wraith King instead of the Rubik. I don't think the Rubik can actually steal anything that's super valuable. Obviously, you can steal whatever Tinker puts out, and it's always good. But in general, I think they needed something maybe a little bit more beefy, like the Wraith King. And you still need another range disable. But I thought the Wraith King probably would have been a better pick there. But they did go with the Rubik, so maybe they've got a player who's just really strong on the Rubik. I know back when I was drafting, Rubik was always kind of in the back of my mind because IndieBear was always very good at playing the hero. So, maybe they've just got a player who, maybe Nekri is just an outstanding Rubik player, and maybe that's why they chose to do it. Or, maybe they're just, in general, they're more comfortable with it as a team.
Right, and the one thing about it. The one thing too about Rubik is I enjoy playing the hero a lot. Is Lift, I think, gets a lot less attention for how amazing of a disable it is, and the potential that he could steal Disruption or Ice Path or Wraithfire Blast, all of which he can combo with his Lift automatically. It's not a lot, but it's useful. And also, I mean, there's obviously the Enigma, and it is a free steal on Black Hole. If the Rubik wants it and is premeditated about it, he will always get Black Hole. Basically.
But like I said, I don't think the Black Hole is going to have a huge impact in these team fights because you already have the Spectre. I would have rather them pick up the Wraith King because it's a hero that's not vulnerable to Tinker.
Right, so you're
Tinker just coming and blowing someone up. But by picking the Rubik, you picked up a second, of course, Shadow Shaman's the other hero, a very vulnerable hero, really squishy hero to any kind of Tinker combo. But we should get introducing the teams.
And
so
we
do
will.
You want to introduce Radiant?
Yeah, we do have the Venezuelan gaming Publicity. We do have Jags, the orange player, picking up Viper, appears to be middle. We have Moonlight picking up the carry Spectre. PMS first, Julian on that Tidehunter. Will be off lane Necron. As Niz pointed out, we'll be playing that Rubik's support, and that leaves Boater as another pause. Unfortunately, comes out the Shadow Shaman support to round out the Radiant squad.
All right, on this Dire side, they actually didn't tag up, but we lost, so they have a lot of faith in themselves this game. But
Meta level faith.
Yeah, playing on the Shadow Demon is Mental. You mentioned him earlier in the cast. Playing on the Jakiro is Onage. Playing on the Tinker is Muon. Playing on the Enigma is CSSS. And playing the Wraith King is Take It Out on Me.
Who, and you guys didn't hear this, but he likes the sound of Niz's voice. So if you like the sound of Niz's voice, I suggest you follow him at his Twitter.
Or just throw a
Hashtag not
Kappa
so
in chat
subtle.
for me.
Yeah, or a Kappa, yeah. Hey, you know what? Kappas are amazing. I used to hate them, but if you have them in good humor, or you just spam Kappa sometimes, it's completely okay. As even partying this weekend was part of Team Kappa. But we do have that smoke up, as we mentioned, from the Radiant squad, is they are going to be moving into the Dire jungle. They will want to go ahead and ward up here, install the Enigma's jungle. I assume that's their primary purpose. Secondary purpose is always going to be a potential kill. But if you're smoking up just to go for a kill or two, it's usually not worth it. Usually you want to get wards up too. Like, you want to have multiple... I mean, we could go on about this for hours, but whenever you do something in a competitive game, like especially Dota, you need to have multiple purposes for things. You don't just do things for one reason a lot of the time, and it's good that they do ward that up. However, it is in a kind of commonplace, and it is only one ward, so this Enigma is not going to be too interrupted, and he is going to be denying from top. No, he's farming top, and they're going aggressive. So my mini-map awareness, guys, is 10 out of 10. Would do it again. Would say everything I just said again, knowing they were going aggressive trying. No, I actually wouldn't.
Well, what that means is they either don't know that this is a possibility at all, that the lanes are going to shape out this way, or they were just covering for it anyways, and were willing to throw away essentially 100 gold.
Rotation middle. I don't think it's going to amount to anything, as he did go for shock first. We'll just get some harass on Tinker and zone him back.
Yeah, unfortunately, if he got shackles, I still don't think they would.
Disruption in the bottom lane. This might be the first kill, as we do have an ice path to follow up. Lift does go out from the Rubik to stall this up. They do not have Wraithfire Blast right now, or in range to get it off. Harassment does bring Boonlight down to about close to half HP. Rubik dropping a little bit as well. But yeah, that was a good... It's always good to trade mana for consumables in an aggressive tri lane.
Yeah, absolutely. The regen in the tri
lane might actually be the first blood. Sorry, as he's taking a ton of damage. Tidehunter from the Eidolons dropping down to 100 HP, as Enigma is just, well, not getting any last hits, but didn't really need to. He just zoned back the Tidehunter and forced out. I guess he still has a salve and tangos, but...
Well, a couple things to note. Enigma is actually an incredibly strong 1v1 laner. You don't see him middle, because he actually doesn't do too well with the ramps and stuff like that, and he's not as good against traditional mid heroes. But when he's put up against an offlane hero, and the types of heroes that are typically played in 1v1 in an offlane, he does exceptionally well. So expect him to actually dominate this Tidehunter quite hard. I think Tidehunter should probably maybe want to put a couple extra points in Kraken Shell to kind of deal with the harass that's going to come out of Enigma. But the other thing I wanted to point out was that in the bottom lane, regen is incredibly important when you're going tri-lane versus tri-lane. It is one of the most determining factors in how a tri-lane is going to go. The next thing is which side gets boots first. The first support or pair of supports that gets boots is a huge advantage. And as always, I've mentioned this before, the area off to the left, just like kind of the entry into the jungle, is incredibly important. Whichever team controls that is probably going to dictate the pace of this tri-lane. And you've already got an observer ward from the Dire side that's going to scout out any kind of rotations or movements from the Radiant support. So look for them to actually sentry ward that. Even if they don't know exactly that observer ward's there, they should probably place the sentry anyways, just for that kind of peace of mind, or just that knowledge that they know, okay, when we're here, we can't be seen.
Yep, I completely agree. And the supports this game specifically, besides the Jakiro, really benefit from boots. Like In general, supports do, definitely, but the like Shadow Shaman, Rubik, and Shadow Demon, because of how their initiation spells are like decently short range, all three of them really benefit, but Jakiro, not as much. Wraith King, he should be getting boots really quickly, I assume. I don't think we'll see a Midas Rush in the aggressive situation from him, probably just a Treads.
You see, I think they could potentially do it because this Spectre did go Poor Man's Shield, so he's already out of regen.
That is true, yeah. That is a very greedy but safe build.
Yeah, unfortunately, it means his team has almost no strength in the tri lane. Spectre, in general, isn't very strong in tri-v-tri. He does have the potential to deal a lot of damage as he gets more points in Desolate, but it's kind of the more aggressive build as well, and a lot of players choose not to go for it. But, so yeah, Wraith King could potentially actually just go for the Midas Rush or go for like a Blink Rush and kind of skip boots. I think he could get away with that in this tri lane. The other thing I wanted to mention is if the Dire side does control this left portion, then they do have more long-range initiate with the Jakiro, because the Ice Path can actually be very threatening. And although it's only a 1 second duration, it does allow the Shadow Demon to step up or the Wraith King to step up. So basically all three heroes in this Dire tri-lane are actually scary. Ideally they want to lead with the Shadow Demon Disrupt, but they don't have to. And even if it's just, a little bit of mana to trade for a bunch of regen, that's fine. They don't always have to get the kill.
Yeah, and most likely Jakiro will go for the Liquid Fire build, which also is a really great way to just get regen used in the tri lane because it's free. It doesn't cost mana, it just costs cooldown, and at level 3 it's a 10-second cooldown, which isn't that bad. Level 2 it's 15 seconds, so it's decently long. But yeah, we are back into the action, so we'll see how things unfold. We won't have to predict it. We can just talk about it. And there is a decently sized creep wave going to be going over here to the Radiant side. That will get them level 2, and Shadow Shaman is pulling as well, but honestly, I feel like pulling in these situations, I don't know how you feel about this, but I almost feel like sometimes it becomes counterproductive because like right now, he can't pull through because it's too high risk, and so the creep wave stacks up.
Well, the thing is when you're actually pulling like that, it's always going to be somewhat advantageous to you as long as you can control the creep wave. The problem is basically what Shadow Shaman has to do to play that is, unfortunately, he didn't get the shackle off there. Yeah. It could have been a kill on Jakiro. But he kind of would have to play over here, which separates him from the rest of his tri lane to be safe when he's pulling. But it also means that the supports from the Dire side can't step up and contest the pull because they can always get gone on. But there is a disrupt in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and it will probably translate into our first blood as we do have this stun, both from Wraith King and Jakiro going out onto Rubik, dropping down to 52 HP and now dead. Falling to Onage as the second kill will be on Mental as it's 1-1 on the board. Now Boater taking quite a bit of damage, gets stunned by the Wraith Fire Blast, taking quite a bit of right clicks, and the Ice Path will finish him off as the Jakiro picking up both of the kills in this situation, trying to run away. Dropping down is tangoing up while this is going on. Fadebolt doesn't do too much damage at level 1, only 80. And that will get salved up as, honestly, the Dire side wins out in this situation. 2-1 aggressive tri lane. The more kills you get, the better it is for you. And in top lane, we might actually see Enigma get dove, possibly turn this around. It might. No, the tower is focusing Radiant creeps, so Tidehunter should get out alive with no problem.
Even though the Radiant side actually just lost 2 heroes in this tri lane, this is the time for them to get aggressive in this tri lane, because Wraith King's mana is always a big concern.
And they will get aggressive right now. There is the lift. They also have the Ice Path as it lands on 2 heroes, but they will be able to clean up that Shadow Demon as Boater was unabated by the, I guess just nothing stopped him. I'm using the wrong word, but nothing stopped that Shackles. That Ice Path could have been the stun to stop it and should be. However, it went a little prematurely onto 2 other heroes. Both supports from the Radiant side are going to immediately Clarity up and smoke up into that mid lane. We also are past the 3-minute mark. Both couriers have been upgraded, so there will be no sniping of that most likely in this portion of the game. But we'll see if this gank turns into anything. Honestly, they have a lot of gank potential with the slow from Jags, as well as the Shackles, as well as the lift. But they are revealed right now, and if Tinker reacts quickly, he could get away. He's going to try to run right now, and they are running through the march, and Rubik gives up. Jags doesn't want to, continues. But Tinker does get out alive, and a little bit of maybe mispositioning from the supports. Radiant side misses that gank opportunity as Tinker goes to Naba regen top.
Imagine if they got first blood in this bottom lane and those boots were on Rubik instead of Jakiro. That would have been a kill on Tinker. Guaranteed.
Well, they're going to try to go for Spectre right now. They do get the disruption. Can they get the follow-up before he gets the dagger? And he doesn't get the dagger off. The ice path is there. He's taking quite a bit of damage, and the dagger runs out north. But he will be able to get into the trees by his tower and get out safely. But Mental has boots as well now, too. So both supports on the Dire side. Radiant side, Shadow Shaman is getting close. So they will have him getting boots soon. And equalizing the boots disadvantage by 5 to 7 minutes is not too bad. The shorter the time is that you don't have boots and that they do, the better. Because basically, once you guys both have boots, then it's even playing ground or playing field.
Shadow Shaman.
Oh
no, the team didn't come with Mental.
Well, actually no, but Shadow Shaman's rotating back in, and now he's going to be near the Wraith King. I don't know. This is really interesting, as he is. They choose not to go for that, and I find that interesting, considering they know that both of the heroes are under that tower.
Did they have the vision of him actually walking back down through that space?
I mean, I don't think so.
Because I think they would have anticipated him going to the left anyways, so they wouldn't have been able to cut him off.
That's true, but why wouldn't Mental just harass him and then they support back? Unless they're intending to dive the tower, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just interesting, but nothing going to happen there for right now. As we do kind of slow down in the game, we can take a second to look at the golden experience graphs. It's not too big of an impact as to their locations right now, but we do see a TP bottom as they are going to go ahead and disrupt on the bottom lane. Moonlight taking it as there will be the stun from both the Jakiro and the Wraith King to follow up, but Viper is here with that Viper Strike, going to be able to clean up Wraith King. Shackles and right click's going to be able to get that kill, and now Onage is on the run. One charge used, but he's against 4 heroes, and there's no chance of him getting out alive. And Mental, the only hero from the Dire side able to get out alive. Score goes 4-2 for Venezuelan Gaming as we mark 6 minutes in this game.
It's always risky when you're a mid hero and you TP away from the mid lane like that to try and get a gank in the side lane. But in this game, it's almost necessary that you have to do that because you need to somehow get an advantage going before Tinker can kind of get off the ground and start really putting a lot of pressure on. But I would like to see them potentially get a gank on Tinker. I think the try-retry bottom is going to start breaking up at this point. So there's going to be a lot more support movements as we already see Mental's kind of preparing to try and gank this Tidehunter in the top lane, who's actually been doing quite well. 26-2 versus the Enigma's 32-11. Better than I thought he would be doing.
The Enigma hasn't been microing his Eidolons as well as he should be against a Tide. So they've been getting anchor smashed quite a bit, but we do have the Gush. It is a 2-on-2 situation as quite a bit of damage goes out onto Enigma. Now we have the Shackles onto Mental, but the disruption is there on the Tidehunter to stall up that counter initiation. And unfortunately, without Arc Boots on Tidehunter, he just doesn't have the mana pool to use Ravage after so many anchor smashes and a use of Gush. So that will kind of peter out and everyone will kind of walk away from that situation. Boater choosing to stay around though, might be looking to go for an initiation here as he is claritying up in just a second.
Well, I missed what happened, but the Spectre actually got sent back to Fountain there, so he must have got really low.
And he goes Urn, and this is something that's been mentioned on Reddit lately, and I definitely think it's incredibly intelligent to go Urn on Spectre. He's a global based hero, wants to be a part of ganks, and free Urn charges, right? And then he doesn't have to go Ring of Health.
The problem is that really sets him back. I'm perfectly this is a very aggressive style build, and I actually don't mind playing Spectre mid every once in a while and going bottle on him. Something I actually picked up.
There might actually be a pretty big trade here as we do have the Gush instead of the Ravage. They are going to save that in the back pocket as they are diving, and now Boater's going to have access to that shock, and with 3 points in it, he will be able to clean up that Enigma, giving him level 6. And where the Dire once had the support advantage, it is definitely now in the side of the Radiant as they have a level 6 on Shadow Shaman.
Yeah, Mental just needed to TP a little bit sooner there, and he actually could have saved his Enigma's life. I don't think Rasta would have dove if the Shadow Demon had been porting a second or two earlier there. He TP'd right as basically Enigma was getting shocked. Spectre desperately trying to get CS in the bottom lane, throwing out a Spectral Dagger. He is actually maxing that. He's got 3 points in Spectral Dagger, 1 in Desolate and 1 in Dispersion.
Yeah, personally, I prefer the Desolate. I know that's definitely the more common build these days for Spectre when we do see him, because Desolate just hits like a truck. 65 pure damage at level 4 is insane, or at level 7 is insane. Especially considering it's given to each illusion, and it's not like illusions get half of the damage, they get the full 65 pure. So it's interesting that he goes that. It's more of an older build, but it does have its merits. The quicker cooldown allows him to escape more often, and a little bit of a quicker movement speed.
There's going to be action in the bottom lane. Victory's kind of getting aggressive too.
It's going to heat up.
Doesn't know there's 4 heroes.
There are 4. And there's only. It looks like the first 10's going to go out onto Spectre, as they do want to kind of pursue the side pass. Isn't quite on the mark as Lift will go back onto Wraith King, throwing him into his team. Moonlight is trying to juke and drive around here as he wants to dodge this out. Wraith King getting low. He doesn't actually have level 6, and Tide. Not sure if he's going to get quite a good Ravage yet, but they do lose the Wraith King off to the left side, and now Spectre's going to ultimate to get back into the rest of this fight, and there's that Urn doing a lot. Now they're going to move in. They do get the Gush onto Onage. That guarantees that kill. And 3-0, as 4 heroes were brought by the Dire, and 3 went back in body bags. And we see an 8-2 advantage go over to the Venezuelan gaming squad over here. And I didn't really see what happened on the right side, but it looked like it was just a bunch of posturing. And
well, yeah, they were all respecting the fact that Tide was TPing in, and Mental actually stepped up.
Oh, and we're going to miss another kill. Is in the middle lane. Tinker does fall. Ravage. He was probably 1,600 gold into his bots, now only 1,200 gold buying up a TP. He did fall to Julian, who I believe used Ravage, and yeah, we did.
He did, yeah.
Yep. So did you see that kill?
No, I actually didn't.
Okay. You caught the after report like I did. And top tower does go down. Mental does get the deny, which is a good step, but it's not enough to quite give them the advantage right now. We have to give it to Radiant as they are up 9-2. They have the heroes to be aggressive. They have the team to set the tempo, and so they are right now. The question is, can they continue to as this game continues on? The mid game is the most decisive time against a Tinker. Whether or not you get racks by the end of the mid game somewhat decides a lot of your game against a Tinker, or if you're far enough ahead of him. Bottom tower will fall for them as they actually are going to get a TP in from Tidehunter, and now it looks like Shadow Shaman as well. They do lift back the Wraith King, however he does have that ultimate this time. Tower is finally destroyed by the Dire. Wraith King will fall, that ultimate popping, slowing all of them. But he is guaranteed to fall here as they do have 5 heroes from the Radiant. They do get the Shackles as well as the Viper Strike right clicks, as well as stuns are going to be enough to clean him up. We do see Rubik stealing that Wraithfire Blast, and now Onage wants to run. Question is, do they have a stun to clean it up? And I don't think so, as all of the heroes that had disables were out of mana, as Rasta just picked up those Arcane Boots, was able to use it after he TP'd away. But the scoreboard does go 10-2, as the Radiant side is definitely in control right now.
That's actually twice now that we've seen we lost basically just trying to force something a little bit too far, and they got a little bit too deep, and then they got TPs on, and there was no way they were getting out of there. And the time before that, they sent 4 people bottom, and they really wanted to get a gank out of it, but it just wasn't shaping up, and then they got too deep, and they ended up losing heroes. So they just need to clean that up if they and then they'd be in a good shape. They do have Tinker.
Disruption does go out into the bottom lane as Mental is the only one caught, but next to 4 Radiant heroes, he does fall, and now his team is there, but they're taking a ton of damage from that ultimate from Spectre. Will allow them to clean up Onage as Moon is in the background to Moonlight. Moonlight might be able to clean him up as that laser does wear off, and he is able to nab up that kill. 2 Urn charges remain, taking dot damage from that Wraithfire Blast. Will Wraith King be able to clean him up? Urn is taking over. Wraith King hasn't been able to get a last hit or a right click yet. Now they do get the Enigma TP with that Midnight Pulse. They're able to clean up the kill. No chance of juking through that, and it goes 13-3, but in all honesty, losing the Spectre isn't too bad in this situation, considering most of the important items that need to come up first in their strategy. It doesn't look like they want the Radiance at all. Like you said, they're definitely more aggressive Spectre, so they want Blink, Refresh, or Blink and Shiva refreshers up on Tidehunter, and Ags I believe would be a really good item this game on Viper.
Yeah, we lost was just a little bit not all on the same page there. It looked like they wanted to defend that tower, but they weren't all together. And unfortunately, Mental stepped up, and he did get picked off. But it worked out that they got the top tower, because they had CSSS up there pushing on the Enigma. He was able to acquire that top tower. And Spectre went like balls deep all the way to the base, and ended up throwing his life away. so that actually worked out for them. But had they just all been there, I think they probably would have lost the tower anyways, but they wouldn't have lost mental, and they still would have traded and gotten the top tier 1 with the Enigma push. But I think they just need to be on the same page. They're just getting a little, forcing things a little too much rather than just kind of letting it happen and kind of sticking together.
Yeah, and if we go to the golden experience graphs, to be honest, the difference is really not that big at all. The scoreboard definitely tells a much more grim story than the numbers of the game, and that's definitely the Tinker factor, especially since he already has his bots online, as and had them online for about 3 minutes. But also the fact that Enigma is one of the most efficient junglers in the game, if not the most efficient jungler in the game. I think you could probably argue it pretty easily that he is the most efficient, but either way, their team is good at getting gold, good at getting farm, and or experience, and that's really going to help them, and has in the numbers right now. So they don't have too much to overcome. So it was a little over-speaking the situation, but maybe Boater is a little caught out here. He's trying to go for a kill on Wraith King by himself. He does get the sheep up. Now the global is there from Spectre, as he's able to reality, and they continue to pursue, but they're going to actually just get Enigma in the ward trap. The question is, does he use the black hole before he dies? And it looks like the answer is no. Boater might be able to get alive. He will just get right-clicked by Onage as he runs up from the south. Now Mental here as well to disrupt. The Ice Path stolen from Rubik thrown out to counter that. Now we have the Blink Ravage from Tidehunter hitting on 3 heroes as Mental will fall. Onage should fall, and Moon will definitely fall under the T2. And yes, they finally will clean it up. And also over on the other side, I'm not sure where, but the final hero fell. It looks like it was, I guess Mental. I guess there was only yeah, I guess Wraith King died in the middle of that fight. But anyways, they did get wiped by that Ravage, and what a Ravage that was.
Oh, using that ward placement.
Dire's structures are fortified.
But anyways, TPs are coming in top as we do see them trying to prevent this push, and I think that's a decent decision. A lot of abilities were used to win that last fight. We do see Steel coming out from Rubik onto that Ice Path. Onage taking quite a bit. He actually might just get focused out here, but a great disruption from Mental saves him. As the mecha is allowed to, or it does get used on him, he's going to get healed up, but he finally will get cleaned up. Black Hole is there, getting on Moonlight and Jags, and Nekri too, as Niz points out. And now Moonlight, one of the sole survivors of this push, is going to run off into the trees and earn himself up, sitting at 2,500 gold. Julian and Boater on the south side, isolating out the Wraith King as they will get a Hex into Shackles. Right clicks are there after a Gush. And there goes his ultimate as it does come off cooldown, and now Boater's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Does get stunned up by Wraith King. Right clicks are going to ensue, dropping him down to 160 HP. Should fall any second now, but the Hex there from Boater is clutch, as he should be able to run for a little bit longer. There is no Blink Dagger yet on Wraith King, so he could get the stun off, but Boater might be able to fog him here, but that looks like no, not enough fog for Boater, as he falls 19-7. Dire getting a decent trade as that push completely fell apart for Venezuelan gaming.
Yeah, Nekri actually, he stepped into the black hole. He was outside of it initially, and he stepped in just
in middle lane. CSS might be in big trouble as he does get Viper Striked up. Right clicks are there, as well as 2 other players with Jags, and that will be the death of Enigma. As actually Moonlight's able to nab up that kill. Now 2,700 gold, almost 2,800 sitting on Spectre.
Well, you know, you talk about all that gold on Spectre. He's also the hero with the highest impact in the game so far. He's sitting on 5, 1, and 13. So he's been all over the place with these kills. But I was pointing out that Nekri actually stepped up and stepped into the black hole trying to get a lift on CSS to interrupt the black hole. He actually had spell steal on cooldown by 7 seconds, so he wouldn't have been able to steal it anyways. But unfortunately, he did step into that, and it cost him his life. But once again, we see another team fight where just guys go a little too deep. It's a little too deep, not playing towers and just kind of forcing it. And we actually saw Black Hole being quite strong in that team fight.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, with Ravage on cooldown and with the Spectre ult on cooldown. Not that there's a blink on Enigma right now, but with those 2 ults on cooldown, Enigma can still get off a good strong Black Hole without having to worry about too much. The biggest threat is the Rubik, and he did a good job of positioning himself on the other side. Well, he positioned the black hole between himself and the Rubik, which means the Rubik has to go around the black hole if he wants to lift to interrupt, rather than because if he tries to reach over the black hole, he'll obviously step into it and get caught.
And it's also worth pointing out that within that exchange, there was a lot of gold given to, I believe it was the Wraith King, as he did finish up his Blink Dagger from all of that. And that's going to allow their pursuit to be a lot more clean. But, yeah, the story of this game before that fight was the Dire overextending quite a few times. But that last fight was definitely the Radiant overextending a little bit. They did do a good job attacking that tower for some time, but they did kind of give up on the objective and started trying to fight instead of backing when the Dire side wanted to defend. So we'll see how this game continues to go on. But if the game state continues in the status quo, or yeah, if the game state basically stays relative to the status quo, do you think Dire side is going to come out with this, or do you think Radiant side has what it is to, or have what they need to push in the Dire side and win this game?
Well, I think that's very hard to commit to one side or the other, because I think both teams have actually shown that they're willing to overextend and make mistakes that can, you know, win a team fight for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right now, Venezuela Gaming, they have a Spectre who's been doing really well. He's 5-1-13. They've been really aggressive, really kind of ganky, I guess. He doesn't really have any items yet besides his urn and his treads, but he is sitting on the 2,800 gold. So I think he's going to be fairly close to picking up his relic, which of course will be turned into the Radiance. And I think that timing is going to be much more important than anything that Tinker's going to get. Tinker does have Boots of Travel, and he did recently pick up his Blink, but he still isn't that threat in a team fight that they're going to need. And I think the Spectre is just going to come online earlier, and they may be able to do a lot more with it. And that combined with Ravage and the potential to really shut down what Enigma can do, could mean that they could just easily pick up some of the towers. And there is all 3 tier 2s up for both sides, so there is a lot of gold to be had, and of course both teams still have their tier 1 towers mid, so there's a lot of gold to be had. But I don't see the Dire side actually pushing and acquiring towers. I see the Radiant being able to push and acquire some towers, and I think that gold's really going to help them continue to push and kind of snowball off the back of that.
I could definitely agree with that, Niz. And
it's all dependent on whether or not Spectre can basically get the extra 1,000 gold he needs to pick up his relic without dying.
Yeah,
Obviously,
or can he get it, or if he can get it quicker, right? Like that's even better. Like icing on the cake, or does it go horribly and do they fail? That is part of the game. That is part of how it works sometimes. But the Spectre has been playing well, and if I had to put this at in a Vegas betting ring, I would definitely be willing to say that the odds are in favor that Spectre will get this Radiance up online. If that's the case, do you think that, like, I don't know, because I haven't really watched too many games recently where I've seen a Spectre get big against a Tinker, but do you think at that point that they're way, like, or I guess how am I trying to ask this? How does Tinker play in a situation in which he's dealing with a Radiant Spectre, in your opinion, once that's online? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to see it no matter what.
It all depends on how strong the Spectre is relative to the Tinker. But once the Spectre basically reaches a certain strength in the game, and I think he's actually getting close to that, if he's going to get his Radiance up fairly soon, even though his relic is quite delayed, 17.5 minutes, and he's still 1,000 away. When you can, if you have free farm, you're looking at picking up like a 12-minute relic, right? So his Radiance timing is going to be quite delayed than it could be in a free farm game. I still think, because the Tinker's farm has been relatively delayed as well, I think the Spectre could put a lot of pressure on the Tinker, and it's really going to limit what the Tinker can do on the map. And the thing is that Spectre just being able to kill the Tinker means that Spectre can keep getting bigger while keeping the Tinker down, because Tinker has to be much more careful about how he farms. whereas the Spectre doesn't. Spectre doesn't have to go around hunting the Tinker. Spectre just presses R.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's important that I really think this Radiance is huge, absolutely huge, and they need to make sure that he gets his relic and finishes his Radiance without dying, and just secures farm. I don't think they have to do anything crazy. I think maybe if they have a chance to take this tier 1 tower by outmaneuvering their team, the enemy team, then they could do so. But if it's going to involve any kind of full-scale 5-on-5 fight, I don't think it's worth it. I think they just need to sit back, wait a little bit, at least wait for the relic to finish, if not the full Radiance, and then start really putting the pressure on. And I know that's kind of a scary proposition against the Tinker, but I think it's the right one, because I think Tinker or Spectre would really be able to shut down a Tinker in this situation. What are you doing in chat?
Fixing. Anyways, I'll go back to my job and try to appease you guys. But anyways, the entire server is screwed up, guys. I apologize. This is not on any of the players. This is not on the tournament. This is 100% on Volvo. Unfortunately, go to r/Volvo, complain, and the company will probably have no clue why are you complaining. But it will definitely bring back reminiscence of the Dire Tide escapades. But that being said, so we could be here, guys, for another 30 seconds. We could be here for another 5 minutes. I apologize. Not much we can do.
Everyone's at least over 200 ping.
Yeah.
Some players up around 500. I even noticed typing in chat, there's quite a delay.
There is. Yeah, I thought it was just the South American players who were experiencing it. And I was like about to say, alright guys, it kind of sucks, but we're going to have to just continue. But it is everyone. No one can play Dota right now. And honestly, that's not cool. You know, like, I mean, at a certain point, it probably is worth starting the game, but I definitely think before that threshold, it's definitely fair to see if we can wait it out. At least that's what I would have done as a player, 100%.
Yeah. And if no one can play Dota, no one's having fun, then that's just not good. Dota's all about having fun. I played a quite the fun game earlier today in my
Oh
pub.
yeah, you did, Niz.
Pub experience. Yes, it was a lot of fun. It was actually, I haven't been playing too much in the last like 4 months or so, but I've been getting back into it, getting back into the swing of things. I've been watching a lot of Dota, but I haven't been playing. And today was my first game with techies. I wasn't playing techies. My first game with techies in the game, and he was actually on my team. And I was playing Sand King, and man, was I noobing it up in the first 10-15 minutes of that game. But I started getting everything together and started getting some good epicenters and stuff like that. But the game went on, and we were kind of getting pushed around, and it ended up the other team bought a rapier and pushed our last set of racks and got mega creeps, but we wiped them. So then we threw the rapier on our sniper and we pushed down mid, and we picked off their razor, and it was myself on Sand King, and we had sniper with rapier, and we had ventral spirit, and all they had up was a Marana. So I'm pinging saying, you know, Marana's missing, you know, care for the Marana. And then all of a sudden the arrow comes flying in, hits our sniper, kills our sniper, rapier on the ground, Marana leaps in, kills the ventral spirit, and it's just me and Marana one-on-one. And I managed to kill the Marana with 140 health left on Sand King. So I drop my arcane boots, I pick up the rapier, and I go jump on their throne, and I start smacking away at it with my claws. And the creep wave's on me, and they're mega creeps, and they deal so much damage, they actually kill me. So there's 9 people dead in the game, and I'm the only one up, and I managed to die to creeps, drop the rapier on the ground. I buy back, try to defend my base, but I can't handle the mega creeps, and we just lose. But all game long, it was a lot of fun, and it was just really funny to see it end like that. I don't actually think I would have won the race for the throne over the mega creeps anyways, but it was a fun game.
But that's why we play Dota, Niz, is for those moments
so
that
good.
make us feel alive as we finally get back into this game, as the life is breathed back into this game. As the gray is gone, The light and colors are back. And we can continue, and like we were saying, 800 gold on that Spectre till the Radiance. I really do think we'll be seeing it up relatively soon. You know, looking at her stats, really great, excellent kill participation for a Spectre. And, you know, when you're playing Spectre and you're playing well, it's easy to see, because you will be a part of every single kill that your team has participated in. And 18 out of 20, this Spectre has made or broke a lot, or, you know, made a lot of plays for her team and set this up. So Radiance, probably going to bode well for them. We'll see if it'll be enough, as this middle tower is getting sieged up. And we've already talked about a lot of this stuff. I guess the question does become, interesting. We do have a BKB coming out of Enigma. It will stop his black hole from being disabled, but it will not stop it from being stolen. Lincoln Sphere, however, does help with that, but it is breakable. A few different spells in this game, but interesting. He's going to go for that BKB, not that blink. We do actually see the Spectre using that reality on to the illusion behind CSS. As he gets Viper striked up, taking quite a bit of damage. The stun goes out on the Moonlight. The mech on him as well. He boss also the Midnight Pulse to clear out the trees. Moonlight still trying to chase, gets scared off by the Tinker. Is unfortunately, I don't know why Viper didn't. Viper did not
Jake's
continue
just
to push.
left there. I think he thought Moonlight was going to get the kill, no problem.
And unfortunately, that
Just a little greedy, wanted more.
mental might be in trouble. He does disrupt the Viper. I don't think anything should come of this. We do have a March go down to zone back, but this middle tower should be forfeit, as all 5 of the Radiant heroes are here.
You know, this is actually one of the things I was mentioning. You know, they can't commit to a full 5-on-5 fight. If they can somehow outmaneuver the other team and secure that tier 1 tower, then they take it, and that's exactly what they did there. You know, yes, they used the haunt, and I was somewhat risky, I guess, but they played it safe, and now they're, you know, 150 away from that relic.
Yeah, and that's again, it's the game, it's the flip-flopper, I honestly think, and this is something I kind of wanted to ask you before, but I think the time has come and passed for this question, so I'm going to kind of use it more as a prompt. But at the beginning of this game, I felt like it was definitely on Venezuelan Gaming. It was on it was on them to get these kills, to set it 21-7, to have the tower advantage, and to get this relic up online. But once that relic's up online, it's still on them, obviously, to set the tempo, and it's good to always set the tempo, but I feel like a lot of the important necessities flip-flop over to the Dire side, as they're going to be playing up against the wall. It's going to be a lot harder for Tinker to get away from fights, to be able to maneuver with that Blink Dagger consistently, and he is getting close to that Dagon. Oh, middle. We might actually see a kill. He does have that ulti in 8 seconds. 7 seconds, 6 seconds. He's dropping down to 145 HP. He does get mech'd up, still dropping low 70. 2 seconds, will die 1 second before his ulti is off cooldown. And now Enigma taking quite a bit of damage, dropping down to 100 HP. Does not mech and will fall as the TPing in Tinker actually gets high path. And now he will be shackled up. And now Hex with 4 seconds on that Hex. It's an easy kill as 3 heroes are down on the Dire side, and it looks like it's going to be 5. Maybe even, or 4, as Mental is on the run right now. The dagger is chasing him. It will hit. The Gush is there as well, dropping his movement speed down to 144, and he falls, making it 4 on the sidelines for the Dire side.
That was so silly. That was 1 hero getting picked off, and they ended up throwing away 3 more heroes. So it turns out to be, they lost 4 heroes there, because one hero ended up being a little bit greedy, and then the next, everyone wants to help each other, and that's just Dota, right? You want to help your teammates. But in that situation, sometimes you just have to say, you know what, he's dead. We have to accept the fact that he's going to respawn in a little bit, and we can't help him, and just kind of step back. But Enigma stepped up, tried to help, and then they were catching Enigma, and then Tinker TP'd in, and then he got caught, and then Shadow Demon was there, and then he got caught. And it's just, it's painful to see that.
Yeah, no, it is, and I mean, when you're in that situation, right, you're definitely right. It feels right. You need, like, you know, you're losing a hero. It's not good. You need to prevent that from happening, and you wanna, you want to save your teammates. You want to make sure that your team is winning fights and such. But one thing about being like the captain that really helped me as a player when I played on my last team is that it's a lot, when you're in the captain seat, it's a lot easier to see as not that members are expendable in the game, but that you have to think about it in that sense sometimes. And like Niz said, you know, you're gonna have to just sacrifice that guy in that situation, and that's 100% true. And when you don't, you end up losing compounding amounts more than you did by just losing one person and sacrificing them and the tower. Because if I'm not mistaken, they did lose that tower, and it was the attempt of the defense by the Tinker TPing in that really set the beginning of that. Or I guess maybe it was the Wraith King dying.
I mean, the Wraith King got caught in the river.
Yeah.
Like, he got caught way up here.
Yeah, and then Tinker
Right?
got
And then
caught
Enigma
under the
was
tower.
hanging around here. And then, but they didn't actually kill Enigma until he was almost back at the tier 2 tower. And then Tinker TP'd on the tier 2 tower right as Enigma died. And then he got shackled immediately. So it was like, yeah, maybe Tinker was going to go and defend the tower, or maybe he was trying to help Tinker or Enigma. It's who knows. But yeah, unfortunately, it was just kind of one after another, and they just needed to accept the fact that they were going to lose a hero or lose 2 heroes.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess some of it's almost that pub mentality where, a lot of players have this idea of, oh, I'm dying. I either blame the guy who's closest to me because he didn't do enough to save me, or I blame the guy who's farther away because he wasn't there with the rest of the team, right? And unfortunately, in a game like this, you're working as a team, and it's just like, okay, you know what? He's dead, just leave him, and everyone just has to get back. And unfortunately, that didn't happen, and they lost a few more. But we're sitting here paused again with a couple more.
Yeah, it appears as though it's again the
finishes.
it is the what do you call it? The Valve servers, as I am typing ping in the console, and it is still yet to pop up as the stream sees everyone sitting at above 200 ping. But in that situation, it sucks too because these pauses, I feel like part of a competitive game is always the mental side of it, and that's something that I talk maybe way too much about personally. But I think it's for me it's the bigger 50%, as people will say. But in these situations when you're down 25-7, you just lost a major team fight because you got picked off one by one. Obviously the team's frustrated at each other. This has happened before throughout the game, and then the pause. And you have to sit here and kind of deal with it. And I think this is where it's really important to not get into those mentalities that you're talking about and be able to assess the situation. Because when we go to the golden experience graphs, for a 25-7, I don't think 10k experience gold or experience lead with an slightly over 7,500 net worth is really as much as it looks like from just looking at the scoreboard.
Well, the thing is that a pause like this, especially after you've lost a team fight, can be good or it can be bad. It all depends on the attitude and the mentality of the players that you have on your team and of the captain of the team, because you can either take this pause immediately after losing a fight and losing some heroes, and you can either kind of get at each other's throats and complain about certain things or why things are going bad and get mad and get upset. Or you can say, you know what, guys, we've lost a couple fights here. Let's regroup. Let's figure out what we need to do from here to win the game. And that's something I always ask my team is, you know what? Unfortunately, we lost some heroes there, but how do we win the game from this point on? Because that's what we need to think about. We can't think about what happened in the past. We need to think about, from this point on, what is our path to victory? And they should be discussing that during this pause. I think both teams are going to be definitely discussing what's going to happen with Roshan here, because I think it's pretty damn obvious that Radiant has made a rotation to Roshan. So it's a question of whether or not the Dire side will look to contest Roshan. I think they can, but it's always scary because, of course, Ravage is still off cooldown. But of course, you do have Black Hole on your side, but it's just not as valuable, especially when you don't have Blink on Enigma. Just him kind of trying to get in there and get a Black Hole off. It's just easier to use the Ravage in that kind of clustered area around Roshan.
Mm-hmm. So knowing 100% of the information, you would say contesting this Roche is not worth the risk.
Oof. It's tough because, I mean, they've already been there for... they've already been there for about 10 seconds. You saw them back. You saw that they didn't push with the next wave. They're comfortable enough to be this far out of their base already. So they know that the other teams know we're around. They know that they've already retreated to Roche. So you have to assume that the roster wards are probably already down, which means this Roche is going to fall very, very quickly. And you have to kind of figure out how you're going to approach. You got to kind of walk through one choke point, whether you're walking through from your ancient side or going down middle lane. If you go down middle lane, you're going to be completely spotted by the creep wave coming in. Either way, they're going to see which way you're going and approaching from. So it's just too hard, I think, to engage in and contest this Roche. You're just too far out of position, and they've got too much time.
Yeah.
I think it's just too difficult walking in, because like I said, Ravage is just. I don't think there's any way to not have a good Ravage in this situation.
Right, it's like Darkseer, right? Like fighting Darkseer at a Roche fight is literally impossible, and you will, even if Wall is on cooldown, the vacuum is enough. The vacuum plus another spell is enough to disjoint any fight you have, and I definitely agree with you on Face. The question becomes, does the Dire side agree with us, and can they make that decision without all of the information, right? Because that's the hard part about being a player.
I think the pause makes this decision a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
I think without the pause, it's very easy to walk in and try to fight this Roche. Fight and contest this Roshan. I think if it's live and there was no pause, I think the Dire side's more likely to contest. But I think under pause, I think the decision's easier to not do it. But you don't know. Some teams think a little bit differently. I'm a very passive and careful player. So to me, I think no. We've made some mistakes. We've lost a lot of positioning here. I don't think we can contest this Roche. But a lot of other players would say, you know what? We're already losing. We're down 25-7. We need to make something change. And some players will choose this list to be the moment. I think it's important that they do have to do something to make this game change and try and tilt the game more in their favor. But I don't think this is the point where you pick that fight. I think that's something that, unfortunately, you just have to wait a little bit longer and just hope that you notice the opportunity when it arises.
Yeah, and I mean that is always one of the hardest parts, because if you put all, if you get caught up in the moment and you make not emotional decisions, because it's not like they're doing it out of frustration, but the need and want to win the game can sometimes make you make bad decisions. And I definitely like the way that you explain that, Niz. But with the way that this pause is going, guys, again, I want to deeply apologize. We're sorry about this. Thank you so much to Rage Plant. Shout out to him, as of course he is saying Niz is an awesome analyst, and I agree. That's why I love having Niz here, because when I try to sound smart, Niz takes what I say and actually makes it smart, or says smart things, and then I can just kind of sit here and talk about the game. So I appreciate that, Niz, and shout out to you, man. But anyways, guys, we really apologize for this. This will give us a moment, of course, to always talk about us and the tournament. If you're enjoying this cast, please follow on the Twitch channel, of course, and check out the YouTube/DotaRaptors or YouTube.com/DotaRaptors for all the VODs that when me and Niz cast together. And of course, Niz at NizCast for his Twitter, because he's the one who actually will tweet out to you guys and talk about the matches and what we're going to be casting. But this tournament, Semi-Pro Cup Series, if you're not familiar with it, tournament run every Thursday and Sunday. On Sundays, there's a $100 prize for the winning team, so $20 a player. And it's basically the most important tournament in a lot of ways for amateur teams to get their name out there. And if you go back to our previous cast, I think Niz has summed it up very well. But this is kind of like the milestone tournament for a lot of teams, because getting far and getting noticed in this tournament will make or break a lot of your amateur portion of your career as a Dota player in the North American or South American scene.
Yeah, and that's just what it is. It's about getting your team known, getting yourself known as a player, networking with other teams, finding good scrim partners, so that two teams can potentially work together and get better. But also just kind of familiarizing yourself with everyone in the community. You may not be making friends with everyone, but it's a matter of understanding um, different teams and how they play, or different players and their kind of tendencies. But you actually didn't mention where they can find the Semi-Pro Dota.
Yeah.
It's
I did
actually
not.
semiprodota.com. It's pretty simple. But yeah, you can go there and you can register any team. Like, you don't have to, it's not invite only, it's completely open registration. And you can just grab 4 friends and make a team. And I think you have to register an hour before the start, at least an hour before. I think that's right.
Not entirely sure. I think you can register at any point before. You just have to check in.
You have to check in within
30
5 minutes of the start or something.
No. 30 minutes to an
30.
hour before the start. So yeah, you're signed in, and then you can do that all the way up to the check-in. But if you sign up 2 minutes before, and you check in a minute before, you're in the tournament, right? So that's kind of to give you an idea of what.
Mhm.
But yeah, probably better that you guys not be that team that holds up the tournament, as the Semi-Pro Cup Series is known for. So, you know, be prepared. It's very important, I think. And even in your own play, when you're playing pubs and playing by yourself, being prepared, watching the game, you know, not even if you're trying to play competitively, if you're just playing it for fun, you know, playing with a purpose will make the game far more enjoyable than just playing to play. If you're going to do that, I highly recommend playing Ability Draft. I recently have gotten addicted to Ability Draft.
I am still undefeated in Ability Draft after
Really?
like 40 something matches.
Really? Oh my
I'm
god.
so good at Ability Draft. but
Niz, the pro.
I'm too bad.
We are
now,
back
it's
into this
rusty.
game. And Niz, undefeated in
contest.
Ability Draft. Can he defeat Roshan?
They're paying. They
I mean,
want
the
to
Radiant.
contest.
They do want to contest. So me and Niz
They're not
talked
even
about
all-
this. They will throw the Ice Path, so this does give them vision of the Roshan HP. They throw out rockets, dealing quite a bit of damage. The March is going down. Roshan, 2,700 HP, dropping down to 2,500. Very low.
They can take this.
And looks like there is going to be posturing coming in from Tidehunter. They do have the pipe on, so those rockets is not going to do much. They're not actually doing too much more damage to it. Those wards are actually doing enough. Jags looks like he's just going to clean it up here. The Ice Path comes through. This is quite an awkward dance, guys. Neither side really wants to commit. We do have the Aegis picked up here by Spectre. Take it on me, taking that Gush, and the fight hasn't quite broken out yet, but I think this is it as Jax gets stunned up. Now the lift onto Wraith King, lifting it back into the team, and the Ravage hits on all 4 heroes. In the background of the fall, gets the anchor, doesn't get the anchor smash fall, finally does now, as the disruption is on Boater to stall up some of that initiation, but now the Spectre pops the ultimate, and the Dire side is just dropping an HP all over the place. The Wraith King does pop from that, or does revive from that Aegis, but only 2 on the sidelines of the Radiant, now 3, but the Spectre and Tidehunter are just going ham, as they are going to clean up the Wraith King. The ultra kill for Moonlight, as Mental, the lone survivor, the captain of the team, able to get out at 70 HP. But obviously,
I feel
a
like
good
this is-
fight.
I feel like this is the moment where I say I told you so. But but it just kind of, you saw that posturing, and you know, you saw the Radiant side, Venezuela Gaming. They backed out. They were a little hesitant. They're like, oh crap, they're actually going to contest. Do we stay in the Roche pit? And I think as long as Tide stood out, they would have been fine just to take Roche. They actually waited a little bit, and the Rost awards went down, so it meant they were actually even slower to kill the Roche. But then still they were able to take it because Dire, they had to go down that skinny ramp, and it was very, very difficult for them to actually push out and engage there because the always threat of Tide. And you saw Tide pressed R and he got 4 people in the Ravage. So, you know, like it's just so difficult for Dire to actually contest there. And they ended up losing 4 heroes, I believe, in total. Or did they lose all 5?
No, Mental got away with 70 HP, and actually, on that note, CSSS is going to get picked off in the top lane as they do have the shackles and the right clicks. The mech is there, healing them up to 200 HP. They do get the Midnight Pulse as well, and now the Malefice will help slow up Moonlight, but I don't think they have the means to kill him. In the bottom side of the fight, we do see the disruption onto Tidehunter. He does blink away, however, before any damage is dealt to him. So Mental and Squad looking to defend this as we do see an Ice Path on multiple heroes. The March going to help stall up this push as the Gush goes out onto Wraith King. 40 seconds till his ultimate. Onage just caught out a little bit. Sees here under the tower, and now the Spectre going to pop the ultimate as we see the Midnight Pulse go down, and Moonlight is bouncing between everyone as 3 heroes are already down for this the Dire side. Mental dropping low will fall under the tower. Godlike and beyond for Moonlight as he picks up a triple kill. 4,000 gold, loses the Aegis, but gets a lot out of it, and now this tower is going to go down, and unfortunately looks like the Dire side is going to give up here as they call GG, and honestly it was starting to snowball. But Niz, what are your final thoughts in this game as we see the scoreboard at 33-10? Venezuelan Gaming is able to pick up the round 1 victory.
It was really just a couple mistakes where we saw both teams do it. The Dire side actually did a little bit more. They just got a little bit overzealous, went a little too far in the early game, and that actually allowed Spectre to get a decent start. And then we saw a couple. Venezuela Gaming actually used the Spectre really well. He got involved in a lot of kills. At one point, I believe he was 18 out of 20 of their kills, and that just allowed him to get his Radiant online fairly early, and especially against the Tinker, that's really going to limit what the Tinker's able to do. And Tinker didn't become that threat on the map where he's jumping around, and Spectre would have been able to keep him down even if he did, because Spectre himself had a pretty good start and had good item progression. So I really like that Spectre was picked, and they made it work. And I look forward to what they're going to do in the next round.
Well, that is definitely true, Niz, and I already plugged us during those pauses, guys, but a quick sum up. If you enjoyed this cast, please, of course, follow on my Twitch down below at twitch.tv/DotaRaptors. If you enjoy these casts and want to watch them on your own leisure, you can check out youtube.com/DotaRaptors, where all the VODs are, and, of course, Niz is your man with the tweets. At Nizcast is where you can find him on Twitter, and he will keep you guys updated with the action as well as who will be watching. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back in the next 5 to 10 minutes with the next game. We will keep you updated both in the waiting screen and in the headline of this stream. You guys, thank you so much, and we will see you soon.